If you are here to listen to the session on disruption through collaboration, lessons of a shared journey in digital transformation, you're in the right place. If not, you still have time to go elsewhere, but you'll be missing an excellent session. I think what you will find in this session relative to many others is that it is, on the one hand, contextually based. It relates to an effort in Mexico. Number two, it relates to a theme that has been mentioned throughout numerous panels, which is partnerships. So this is a result of a very important partnership that has occurred along the lines of digital transformation. We are fortunate that we have with us the following colleagues: Kerstin Scheuch, Director or CEO of CENTRO in Mexico City. We have Arturo Cherbowski, Executive Director of Santander Universidades. We have Fernando Sepulveda, CEO of EmTech from Silicon Valley. We have Jose Mata, who is President of the Association of Private Mexican Universities. I'm your moderator. I'm Fernando Leon-García, President of CETYS and President of the International Association of University Presidents. Okay, we'll try to organize our session such that it'll be dynamic. We'll try to segment it into two portions. The first will be to try to put the initiative into context. So we'll have each of the panelists share their perspective on different items. Then we will reflect on what will happen on a go-forward or moving forward basis. So to get us started, let's try to put the effort into context, and we'll ask President Mata to talk about background and reasons that led to the establishment of this important consortium in Mexico.
Thank you very much, Fernando, and thank you, everyone, for being here. First of all, I'd like to offer you some background on what Fimpes is. Fimpes is a federation that gathers more than 100 universities, private universities, across the country. And to be a member of the federation, each university has to go through a 2-year accreditation process. This process is it's well settled in order to comply with real high standards of institutional quality. So, therefore, I can assure that Fimpes holds the top best private universities in Mexico. At the beginning of the year 2020, Fimpes had a profound dialogue with Arturo Cherbowski here from Santander Universidades, to whom we're very thankful for inviting us here today. And some of the subjects that we were talking about had to do with different trends on higher ed that were quickly evolving in American institutions, and especially in digital tasks regarding the learning and teaching process. In the end, many of the universities, not only in Mexico, but across the globe, address the digitalization process as something that was coming, but it was still a little bit far away. It wasn't urgent to deeply attend. As we said, we were kicking the ball a little bit further, some yards away from us. And we all thought we had so much more time. Of course, the pandemic became a catalyzer of many processes and also brought light to our strengths and also to our weaknesses, to all of us. Having millions of students having to connect each day at their houses, having teachers using their own technology at home, trying to keep up with the different courses, that was a cue for the universities to take this matter very seriously. Santander and Fimpes then partnered with EmTech Institute. Thank you again, Fernando, also for this opportunity. And this alliance provoked many good things. I remember very interesting interactions with Harvard School of Education and J. Well Institute from MIT, among many others. And we also had various conversations with different top leaders, former education secretaries of state in Mexico, different experts on technology, educational one. And we came to various conclusions, such as the awareness of knowledge globalization, for example, the digital transformation of many productive sectors in the professional arena, the different social economical gaps in Mexico, which is a very important issue to address, and an urgent need to further reach different sociological and geographical sectors without diminishing our quality. Like in many other countries, the answer was clear. We needed to advance strongly in the digital transformation of our universities to provide high-quality education into new segments of the population. But also, we needed to move forward in order to have a mindset, a digital mindset, not only on our students. The students were kind of the easy part, but the difficult part was to settle that digital mindset in our communities. On top of everyone were the teachers, no? The academic area were always trying to, well, they said they did want to go further, but in the end, they came back to the classrooms doing the same thing as every day for the last 10 years. They had done the same. The outcomes, Fernando's going to talk about them in a few moments, but each university participated in the project with their own academic and technological staff. What I would say, it's really important, not only to share the process, but I think the real important thing about this, that this process led us to a collaborative environment. No, we heard at lunch that we were challenged to build complex, adaptive collaboration environments. So that's what we did in Mexico. These 12 universities that gathered and started building this system in order to transform digitally the universities. We are universities that compete with each other, but are learning to collaborate in things that are very useful for now and for the future. So that is what we've learned. And we've learned that in this type of situations, these good things are the ones that need to be presented as a very important outcome. So I would say that that's the short story.
The context.
About the context.
Okay, thank you. When we think about digitalization in higher education, Kerstin, what can you add and share with the group? What motivated the group to move forward with this?
I think when you're in higher education today, when you're in an institution, I mean, there's a constant sense of urgency. And so I think what we're looking to find is ways to accelerate, because there is no question that we have to do it. There is no question that we want to do it. We started before the pandemic, thank God. So, you know, we were sort of set up for this situation better than those who didn't start before the pandemic. But the truth is, you are in constant need of acceleration. And this feeling of how can I go faster, I think is what keeps us awake. And the second thing is to know faster as in compared with who. You know, I think that we see this enormous noise around us, but we don't know who to compare ourselves to, which vision should we follow, what should we share, what is the experience. And so to basically look for benchmark data, benchmark vision, benchmark experience, self-assessment, I think were the main drivers for us to be happy about this proposal.
Thank you, Kerstin. Well, as the, in some way, main instigator of not only exploring but doing something, what can you share with the group, Arturo, in terms of the global vision of digital transformation?
Well, for us, trying to get this going was of paramount importance. I would say it was of strategic importance. I don't represent the university. I'm in the very curious position of representing a global bank that has a commitment to help universities and that dedicates 90% of its corporate social responsibility budget on universities. But it's also because we do great business with universities worldwide. And, you know, for the last 10 years, I've been sitting there seeing the position of universities being weakened. And, you know, in the end, I'm afraid for my job. I mean, I work with universities, and, you know, for more than 10 years, been coming to forums like this, to see that there are very few universities represented, that the challenges that universities are facing are coming from the outside, and that it's been very hard locally in Mexico, but also globally, to get universities to understand that we are in an epoch-changing transformation, that the requirements of what is needed from these institutions we call universities or institutions of higher education are changing, and if they don't find different ways of doing the things that they do, you know, I don't want to talk about the death of the university. I think it's premature, but you know, that language has been around since very before the pandemic, and it seems that the only place you don't talk about this is within the university itself. The pandemic was a game changer, at least for me, not in the sense of not being afraid for the universities I work with and that I love, but it was a game changer for me because for the first time in about 10 or 15 years, I saw in the crisis an opportunity, at least in a country like Mexico, to say, hey, I mean, it's here. We've been preaching about this. We've been talking about this for 10 years. We've been coming to forums such as ASU+GSV for many, many years, but now the universities have to listen. Now listening is not enough. You got to get your hands into the action and do the work. And internationally, the idea is there. The quality parameters have changed. What's a good online course? I mean, come on, remote emergency teaching, turning on Zoom and getting students to, you know, getting teachers to understand how to work Zoom is not what this is about in the end. And it's great that we all did this, but there had to be beyond. And the beyond for us is very important in the sense that the quality parameters, but also the borders of competition have shifted. You're no longer competing amongst local universities in one single country. You're talking about a world market with very high quality standards of production. And the only way to get there for universities in a country like Mexico, even when you're talking about the topmost private universities in the country, the highest quality private universities in the country, the only way to become competitive and jumpstart was through fostering collaboration. Now, sounds easier said than done. In the end, the big challenge, and I'm very thankful to Fimpes, to EmTech, to all of you who are here, the biggest challenge is the nightmare of getting 12 of the most preeminent universities, private universities in one country to say, hey, yeah, we can produce courses together. We can do them. It's not I'm going to make a course and I'll share it with you and then you give me credit or you give me money. No. We're going to produce together, and in order to be able to produce these together, we're going to actually talk to each other about what our best practices are, but also sort of, you know, open up our weaknesses, you know, complete open kimono. It's like, you know, I have all these lacks and all these things that I don't do well, and I need to learn from somebody else how to do them better, or my institution is in peril. And, you know, that's been very rewarding in terms of putting together this project.
Thank you, Arturo. So indeed, I think what's key here is moving from what has been a reaction to the pandemic to the challenge of seeing what we have learned, and beyond that, developing or building some capacity. Yeah. And so in an effort such as this one, there needs to be someone who has a notion of what's happening, how to do it, and to lead and facilitate the process. So we'll move on now to Fernando Sepulveda, who has been the facilitator and the guide as such in this project. Can you share a little bit about the Center of Excellence, accomplishments, et cetera, Fernando?
Absolutely. Thank you, Fernando. And I think this is a very unique situation, right? Because you have not only 12 universities that are competitors working together, but they actually invited a Silicon Valley-based EdTech to facilitate the process, which I think it's quite unique, right? Because it's really the convergence of many visions into a common goal. And we had been working for quite some time with the Harvard School of Education and with MIT on thinking about the next generation educational models to teach people, right? And we had been working on learner-centric content to bring greater outcomes at lower costs and in a scalable way. And when we were invited to participate and be part of this consortium, we immediately jumped on this opportunity because it was an opportunity to really bring the learning science that was being developed at the top research universities into a lab where 12 universities were willing to collaborate and experiment into developing something better. So initially we started working on standards. We benchmarked all of the universities, and we tried to measure where each university was in terms of their quality, their educational quality and their production quality in terms of content. And that itself yielded very, very interesting results. And what we found initially was that everybody thought that they were world-class. And then when they started seeing what were their strengths and weaknesses, everybody realizes the emperor has no clothes, right? Everybody immediately felt, in a way, naked, because we made a very transparent process where everybody understood where they were standing and where the real best practices, international best practices were. And that was just the beginning of the journey. After that, we started mapping what were those best practices and those benchmarks, but not just copying and pasting to the Mexican situation, but actually adapting it to the local environment. So it was relevant to our students. If we wanted to make a learner-centric model, it needed to be based on who the learner was in Mexico. So that was tremendously useful. So that was one part of what we did. And then we quickly moved into actually co-producing content in collaboration with all of the universities, right? Starting to develop educational products, digital hybrid educational products that were learner-centric. And we found a space where all of the universities could coincide, which was trying to help to close the initial gap that students had in their earlier education, right, in coming into college, to foster retention, to accelerate their success rates within the universities. So we started developing these courses, and a lot of people predicted that this effort would fail, right? And happily, we're now in implementation mode of these new educational products, and now we have common standards in which we can build on. So I think it's a great success story of collaboration.
So we'll continue with you. So as we try to move forward, what are the challenges and opportunities that you have identified that the group needs to work on in order to maintain a successful effort or the momentum as such?
Well, I think the Center of Excellence has created the standards, and now we've piloted and proven the model, right? So if we move into kind of startup thinking, right? We beta tested the model, right? And we did a successful proof of concept. Now, the challenge is, how do we scale that? And we're finding at least two challenges. The first challenge is capability building within the universities, right? For instance, something very simple, right? Most universities are doing teacher-centric content, right? They have instructional designers, but basically they're delegating to subject matter experts the development of the content. And the new model calls for having instructional designers to really apply learning science into the development of learner-centric content. Now, universities don't have enough capabilities, right? They don't have enough educators, they don't have instructional designers. There are so many kind of areas of expertise that they might have one or two, but they don't have them at scale to really make a shift into this model. So right now, we've actually created a course where we're teaching people within the universities to build these capacities so we can scale. That's one of the challenges. The other challenge is to really take a leap of faith, right? Moving from pilot, and Pepe and I were talking just this morning, you really need to invest in this. You need to take a leap of faith and say, okay, we're going to make this for real. This is going to become my new educational model. This is going to become my new operational model. Let's start writing the checks and let's start investing and let's start moving. And that's scary. And I think we're at that stage where people need to make the leap of faith.
Thank you. Thank you. Now, moving on, but also in the same context of what do we envision moving forward. In the case of Fimpes, this was, of course, a pilot of a limited number of institutions that developed some supportive prerequisite retention-related courses, but now are in the process of developing subject matter, the equivalent to Gen Ed in the US. So, what do you see as Fimpes concludes the pilot and moves into something else, Jose?
I think, well, it hasn't always been easy. You know? We face different challenges, as my partners here just said. And I think we face different dangers ahead of us. One of them is, as I said before, when we are returning to the regular basis of our teaching methods, is having faculty or even university presidents wanting to do the same thing as before the pandemic. And thinking, well, everybody's here, and let's just keep on going as we know things work. The second one is thinking that you can do this alone. Thinking that you have enough resources to really set your digital transformation really on forward. So this has taught us that we need to partner, and as Fernando and Arturo said, for us it's been a great experience. Today I listened earlier in the summit, somebody who was saying that we need to keep on building our different academic plans with the different industries, you know, together. And this is what we've done. You know? Imagine having 12 universities, a bank, and a technological industry, one of the best, no? In the same table developing programs. That, before the pandemic, was something that we thought we were going to do, but in the next 10 years. So now we've done it. And so what we see ahead is the good news is that there are industries and people, and like these top leaders here, willing to invest in this project. And we want to not only share it, but we want to, this is the beginning, I think, of many different outcomes to build together. And we want to share it with the rest of the Fimpes membership, and also develop some programs, not only for the membership, but to all the higher education institutions in Mexico. So that's the impact of the 12 first institutions working and collaborating. Sharing, that's another good news, no? You have 12 institutions willing to share their talent, no? And so we're very excited to the next steps, no? And we see this as a long-term relationship, and we'll be offering this to many other institutions. And I think this example can help other industries to collaborate with technology and to share their best practices.
Thank you, Jose. So in some way, you see Fimpes moving in a direction of what an organization in the US has done, Council of Independent Colleges, where there wasn't a capacity to offer online. They organize around academia, and so now there's some capacity so that those that are very small or not technologically savvy can now offer this.
We want to focus on that, no? And also, like I said, that when you work like this and you start thinking that, well, at the first time you come to this experience thinking that you can do it alone, and when you see what you have done, you feel proud. But when you see what you haven't done, you get scared. So I think that experience, when you share it with everyone, that same effect is going to happen, and that's what makes you collaborate in the end.
Thank you. Kerstin, can you share what has gone on at CENTRO, and how has this benefited in any way?
Yes, absolutely. We are small, but I consider us technologically savvy. I think we started the transition early. I think, we're currently in a collaboration with Meta, working on immersive learning. But that, I think, so from our point of view, we came to this collaboration looking really for the benefits of working with a very diverse group of peers, but from different fields, different subject matters, different sizes, different experiences, and different visions. And I think this diversity of representations of different universities really is a pool of talent where, yes, you share your talent, but you also learn. It's a huge learning experience for the staff that's involved, in the university that goes to these meetings. They learn. And of course, everybody who's there. So it's a training ground, in a way, for internal staff. Then I think it's also adding depth, because yes, we discuss everything 5,000 times, but imagine discussing it with 12 other institutions. Mm-hmm. So you really get a much deeper perspective on complex subjects, and I thought that was really good. I was amazed at how flexible it was. You could invest the time, as much time as you could, whenever you could. So I think that worked really well, that it wasn't too strict. I think a collaboration of that type needs a certain flexibility around it, and I think that worked really well. It was a great networking opportunity because, as was mentioned before, you brought experts from all over the world, and I think that was really benefited the group and was really great for networking. And then I think many expected collaborations came out of it, as in working together, doing all these things, but then also many unexpected collaborations came out of it. I'm just looking at Ricardo because, we, in this collaboration, we became friends and we started a project for diversity, with other universities, best practice in diversity. And, that came out of this collaboration. So we started in tech and we moved on to diversity. And I think there will be many other collaborations that come out of bringing these different institutions and from education, technology, and general organization together.
Thank you, Kerstin. So, Arturo, where do you see this going?
That's a great question. I mean, the challenges are there. There's a satisfaction, as we say, and Fernando was very, very clear about this, that, we got a proof of concept out there. The project did not die up in flames. I mean, the skepticism in the first meetings when you get 12 university presidents together and you ask them to collaborate and collaborate flexibly and, not put rules that will stifle the project beforehand. And, the questions come up of fairness. Are we all putting the same resources into this? Are we not? Are we, whose intellectual property is this? We actually figured out a way. I think there was tremendous goodwill to put those things aside. But as this grows and as these scales, we have to go back to these issues. We have to go back to these issues because the issue here is now the satisfaction of the proof of concept is there. The great lessons of collaboration are there. Now we've seen that it can be done, but we don't want it to die because of its own success. And, scaling is a multi-headed beast. I mean, and scaling is a multi-headed beast, not only because of the capacity building that Fernando was talking about, which, yeah, that capacity building is an issue there. But now, we do have to start thinking about where this is going. Can we monetize this project? And if this is going to be monetized, where is that money going into? Is that going to be reinvested to make this self-sustainable, to keep going and bring more universities into the fold, or does somebody want to cash out and go home? And if they want to cash out, is that really what we want from this project? So all of a sudden, these things about flexibility and let's just see if we can do it, great, now we have to get some rules in the game that will allow us to grow. But not only grow and not only scale, but become competitive and self-sustainable. As I was saying earlier, the borders for this are no longer, hey, is this the best in class in Mexico? It's no longer good enough to think that it's the best in class in Mexico, because those borders are artificial with what we're doing. You got to think, is this the best in class worldwide? Is this competitive? Do you want to bring that course to ASU+GSV next year and show it and stand tall when you show it, and then have people lining up because they want licenses for this course, you know? And those are the sorts of questions that we have to move into right now if we want this to thrive. We've proven, yeah, collaboration is possible. I think the goodwill is there. Now we need to make it successful. Now we have to make it sustainable, regardless of the quality of the product. The product is very high quality, but fortunately or unfortunately, that's not the way the world works. It's not enough. Now you have to take the next steps structurally to make this thrive, and I guess that's where we're going.
And also as something that perhaps was nascent during the pandemic, as something that is embedded into the DNA of institutions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you hit the nail right on the head with that. I mean, for me, my biggest panic when I hear people talking about the new normal or the post-pandemic is the temptation is there to go back to things the way they were before the pandemic. I mean, you know, I just want to remind, I know I don't need to remind this crowd, that's why we're here. Mm-hmm. But you know, if you see the surveys of university presidents, you want to run and scream in terror about what some of the answers are to this question, because basically they want to go back to old models, and the answer is, wait, the old models weren't working before the pandemic. Why would you want to go back? We already had a deficit before the pandemic. This isn't just about weathering the pandemic. It wasn't working before. You opened your eyes and now you want to close them again? Please don't do that. And that, to me, that's a great point.
Yeah. Indeed, several surveys, I think, that have been carrying out the last year and a half have pointed out that in particular, in the case of Latin America, we have been looking at the pandemic as a storm that will pass, right? And that leaders, unfortunately, still happen to look at the short term.
Yeah.
Quick fix, and that if we've done remote distance education or something that's an approximation into online learning, that it'll just be while the pandemic is here. And truth of the matter is there's major transformational change. Let me open it up to the audience. We have quite a few minutes here to entertain questions.
Comments? Questions?
I have a loud voice.
Oh, go for it.
Go ahead. Please.
So, you've launched the product. I guess the real trick is, when are these universities going to share their numbers to see how effective the product is, and how do we get them? I think that's the big deal breaker. Yeah. Mm-hmm. If they're sharing content, that's fine. When do we get them to share the numbers on how effective it is, so they can, regardless, keep on improving and adding on?
Yeah. I might kind of take a stab at that. It's interesting because as we are deploying these new educational products, right, into the various universities that participate in the consortia, each of them wanted to implement them in a different way. And one of the early debates was, should we allow that, or should we have one size fits all? And actually we thought it was a great idea for everyone to do it in a different way. And in the Excellence Center, we're actually implementing this in a centralized way, so we actually have access to the data of all of the universities. Now, obviously, because of data privacy concerns, we would need the authorization of the universities to allow us to benchmark what happened in the various experiments. But I'm pretty confident that they will allow that kind of anonymous benchmarking, so we can all learn about the different ways in which this has been implemented. Some universities have chosen, for instance, to implement these new courses as a mandated course for all of their university students. So we have thousands of students of kind of various grades taking these courses. Others have chosen just to do it for new entrants, right, for freshmen coming into the university as part of the onboarding process, and so on and so forth. So I think we're still in the beta testing of these new products and the educational impact that this will have. But I think it's part of the experimentation, right? And hopefully, we continue sharing data, we'll learn faster and we'll improve faster, which is, I think, the critical skill.
I would also add that the market is there. No, for those who know or for those who don't know, I would say that in Mexico, 95% of the universities and higher ed institutions, are still on the first primary stages of a real and profound digital transformation. So they're going to need these tools. And that's why we think that coming up with a business plan, I think it's going to be the easy part. The hard part is going to be how do we supply these tools to everyone in need.
You?
So one question, you talked about lots of different things the consortium is doing. I'm curious what the priorities are in your mind between helping those universities build better courses within themselves, help undergraduates joining those universities, or opening up courses to other audiences. It seems like you're exploring in all spaces. Is it clear what the biggest limiter or risk or biggest concerning area is?
Very good. I think that's a great question, and to tell you the truth, I would say all three, and I know that's a big challenge, but the reason I would say all three is because at least in the early stages, and I know that's where the challenge comes now, if we circumscribe the goals or the objectives of the consortium for its members too quickly and said, no, this is about student-centric learning. No, this is about capacity building in universities. No, this is about, then we would have lost the goodwill. We had to leave it open-ended and let the consortium in the debates themselves decide. Now we got to start, codifying that if you want, crystallizing that if you want. But at the beginning, part of the trick has been that we were very open-ended in the setting of the priorities so that the members of the consortium could decide for themselves so that the project would be worthwhile regardless of your first objective or your first motivation. And that is very fortunate in saying all three. Now we've got to see which ones sort of predominate, but I think that's a great question.
Yeah. Thank you. Another question? If not, Kerstin or Jose, any reflection from an institutional perspective in terms of what this has represented for the faculty involved at your institution or at your institution, Jose?
Yes, I think I was referring a little bit to it earlier. I think for the faculty involved, it's a fantastic opportunity to think outside the culture of the institution, to think outside the processes of the institution. It's, of course, a challenge, go somewhere else and talk with people from 12 other universities. But in reality, people loved the opportunity to be with peers from other institutions, to network with peers from other institutions, to learn from other institutions. And I think that was really, for the faculty, the key driver. And I think also learning your own strengths, because I think people doubt themselves, but when they actually see what's happening in 12 other institutions, they were very happy to see about the preparation, about the vision,
Thank you.
solid.
Thank you, Kerstin. So we'll have to begin to bring the session to a close, and I would like you to join me in recognizing Jose, Fernando, Arturo, and Kerstin for this magnificent session.
And
thank you.
Fernando, our
Thank you very
great
much.
moderator as well, so thank you.